All right, hello and welcome to yet another episode of Tai'Shar and Ethrin, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Will.
And I'm Sam.
And we are continuing today in Lord of Chaos. Last week, we only got through the first couple of chapters because we had the prologue and it was so long. So today we are starting in chapter 3. So Sam, why don't you take it away?
Indeed, the prologue novella complete. We move on. Rand opens the gateway to the farm, and it does not have another name yet. Taim and Rand's maiden guards follow him through, and Rand hears Aviendha call after him, and closes the gateway really quick to get away from her. Yeah, we're back to doing that again. That's happening, and we don't really see why for a while. It's kind of like just annoying. So Rand tells Taim. He doesn't seem surprised to hear about the Forsaken being loose. And Taim says, I heard rumors, they had to break free eventually, whatever.
Right.
Hand wavy stuff. And so Rand says, you can expect to fight shadow spawn, including gray men and golems, except he doesn't know what a golem is. I don't know if maybe he says golem as in like golem is plural, like goose, geese. Anyway, I guess a group of golem a murder? No, I don't know. So he doesn't know what a golem is, but so that came from Lews Therin. He is actively remembering Lews Therin memories. So Rand tells Taim that he will teach him everything he knows except Balefire, and is relieved to find out that Taim doesn't know Balefire. Taim says he's been to the Blight, fought Trollocs and Myrddraal, and is willing to do it again. So that's fair. They reach a farmyard with a 2-story thatched house and a barn, and there are 27 men there who've showed up to learn to channel. Not that Rand has taught them anything; they've just kind of been there, I don't know, doing chores or whatever. And he doesn't know how to test people, which is why he was so curious to find out if Taim could.
Right.
So we meet,
and it seems to work a little differently for men and women.
Yes,
because for women, they can just sense it. Like a person can just walk up and they're like, "Hey, you can channel," and that doesn't happen for men. They have to do some kind of action to make this test work. It's not just passive.
Yet another way. Men and women channeling are like fish and birds or whatever. So we do meet some of the men who will become more important characters later. Damer Flynn, Eben Hopwell, Jer Grady. So that last tells Rand he wants to go home. He's got his wife there. Rand says, sure, but you might as well get tested before you go, just to see if you could learn. But Taim tests Damer Flynn first, and so Taim creates a small flame in the air in front of him, tells him to concentrate on it. So they're all just standing there staring at this flame. So then after about 10 minutes of just standing there, Rand feels a tiny echo of power from Taim pulsing in Damer. So he can channel. Yay. Congrats. You will go mad according to everyone in the world. So after he sees that, he knows the test, basically. He says, all right, I have to go. Taim, now make them learn as fast as they can and focus on turning them into weapons. That's the goal. We want weapons because we have to fight the Dark One and the Forsaken. And then Rand tells Taim to watch out for anyone who can learn too fast, because they might be Forsaken. Then he abruptly demands that Taim hold as much Sidene as he can, and then just to see just how powerful he is. And then Rand realizes he is doing the same and also using the Fat Man and Grail in his pocket. And also, of course, Lews Therin is howling, kill him now, in his head. So then Rand lets go of the power and mutters, just keep an eye out for anyone who learns too fast. And the maidens are worried about him tiring himself out, but they never seem worried about him going mad. Whatever, they're Aiel, it's fair, I guess. They're
kind of fatalistic. I mean, it's funny because they're fatalistic, but also very motherly.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, all the maidens are like that. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like, hey, everybody's going to die, but not everybody has to die hungry.
But you should eat your dinner. Yeah. Get enough sleep.
Right. Yeah. I think also here, like with this introduction of the beginning of, we'll hear it later in this book, so I'll go ahead and say it, the Ashaman.
Right. Yes, we will hear it in this book. True.
So you when Rand says, yeah, I want them to be made weapons, this is a very distinct and big difference between the White Tower and the Ashaman, is that
For sure.
the Aes Sedai are almost do as much as they can to avoid using the power as a weapon, and in fact have it as a part of their oaths, and even have it as a part of their oaths that they can't make weapons using the power.
Right.
And versus, I want you to become weapons,
for sure,
living weapons.
Yeah, the approach to learning how to channel is more like the wise ones. Like when Avienda was learning to channel, and like the first thing the wise ones taught her was to throw a fireball or, or whatever. So
yeah, and it's you can understand though why any Aes Sedai, whether they're Tower or Rebel Aes Sedai, would be absolutely terrified if they heard about
a bunch
this.
of men channeling to become weapons. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And most of the world, the sane response to that is, oh no, that's not good.
Yes. It's like if you found out that the guy who lives behind you was like working on his own Manhattan project.
Right. Just collecting nuclear fissile material and, in his shed.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Fair enough. I like that.
I kind of had that happen, but it wasn't Manhattan Project. It was more like, meth. It was just meth.
Right. Well, that's it's meth. So Rand opens the gateway to a tent and tier on the plains of Marido, and I was looking at this. I was like, Marido. Plains of Marido. That sounds familiar, but no, I was thinking of the plains of Megiddo in Israel.
Oh yeah,
it's like they just kind of lifted that a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I've been there.
Fair enough. I can't say I have. On to chapter 4, a sense of humor. So Rand is greeted by Thunderwalkers. And we'll love the name of the different Aiel clans who are, not clans, societies. Thank you. Yep. Who are used to guarding guarding an empty tent. But the idea, of course, is to keep Rand from being ambushed when he's teleporting, which does make a certain bit of sense, but it also sounds kind of monotonous to stand guard at an empty tent day in and day out, not knowing when he's going to show up. But it's a matter of honor for Aiel, and so they do it happily. And about half of them are wearing a crimson cloth knotted around their temples with the Aes Sedai symbol over their brows, and they consider themselves to be Spears of the Dragon, or Siswayaman in the old tongue. I just think they're Ninja Turtles, but it's just me. They also refuse to admit they're wearing these, and no maidens do so.
Yeah, this is just kind of a funny thing. It's like, what's the deal with this? It's like, hey, what's up with that thing that you're wearing? What thing?
What thing? I'm not wearing a thing. You're crazy.
Yeah. Like, is that how that goes?
It seems like, yeah, for sure. Like, you look like you're cosplaying for Dragon Ball Z or something. But, because they have Cartoon Network.
Right, exactly.
So Rand asks Royden, leader of the Thunderwalkers, on this side of the Dragon Wall, where he can find Wyramon, and is pointed to a pavilion where, this is he's walking through the encampment of all these soldiers. So there's a little back and forth between the Thunderwalkers and the Maidens. And Nyla says they're called Thunderwalkers because even when standing still, they look to the sky expecting to see lightning. Hilarious. But apparently this gets at least one gets to the Thunderwalkers because one of them jumps in the air and does a karate kick. While he's jumping up and kicking, he shouts that maidens use hand talk because even when they're not talking, they can't stop talking.
Hey-o!
So this, of course, has the other Thunderwalkers in stitches. And Nyla responds that it's dumb to guard an empty tent and they would probably get drunker on empty cups than Usquai. Which, okay, fair point. But this is apparently a sick burn, and the Thunderwalkers acknowledge it by raising their bucklers and rattling their spears against them. So then after they leave, Nyla asks one of the other maidens, Samara, who the karate kicker is. And Samara says she only thinks that Nyla only thinks he has humor because he thought your joke was better than his. But he does look to have strong hands. Lots of details there. So then we get to the scene we discussed at length in our crossover episode with the Black Tower podcast, folks. This is when Rand tries to tell the Aiel the funniest joke he knows. and they do not see the humor in it at all. So it's this joke about the rescuing a chicken from a tree, and anyway, so they think that the joke is about the water or about the chicken, the rooster, and Rand gives up and stops listening.
If you want to hear a thorough breakdown of this and other humor, you should go back and listen to the Black Tower podcast episode that we're on.
Really enjoyed talking to those folks. Good guys.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And also it's like whichever person said it, trying to analyze humor is like dissecting a frog. That
right.
No one learns anything and the frog dies. That's kind of the way it works. But this is a funny moment that I think does kind of draw a clear line between, there is something with the Aiel where they're constantly ragging on each other. They have a very specific idea of what humor is, and it's an important part of their culture. And I'm really looking forward to that playing out. I hope they draw that out in the TV show.
I hope they do that justice. It's important to me that they do that well, for sure.
Yeah, and this moment, like where you get the sick burns back and forth, and the rattling the spears on the bucklers.
Yeah, we need that to be genuine. We need that to not be just kind of forced. And need that to to really work for the Aiel's sake, for sure.
I wanted to go down like that one, the gif of the guy where everybody's going, oh, and that people use as a reaction.
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah, it's got to be like that.
Oh man, just talking about GIFs for a second. My favorite GIF ever. I was just thinking when everybody gets back to the office and out of quarantine, there's this Bollywood GIF of this guy walking into and then he's like walking and then he starts dancing and
yeah, I saw somebody put that GIF with the caption when Matt meets back up with the Red Hands. With the band of the Red Hand.
Absolutely.
Like, yay!
Yes. Oh, Bollywood is wonderful. They really are.
Yeah.
They really do good work out there. So Rand shows up to a tent guarded by the defenders of the stone, and he kind of greets them with, "The stone still stands," which was their battle cry, and they kind of grin briefly. Because it's kind of funny to hear that from the man responsible for the stone falling.
Right.
But he did lead them in battle against Trollocs once when Samael sent them after him into the stone. So it's no surprise they have loyalty to him, even though he did cause the stone to fall. He goes in to meet with the Tyrants and the Carrienan, and Wyramon is in charge for some reason. Come on, Rand, you've got to know this guy's an idiot. But of course he knows that. I mean, he's not really expecting him to do anything here.
I will say one of the funnier accounts in Twitter of Time is the Wyramon account.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the guy who does that one is pretty funny. So anybody who's on Twitter, if you haven't discovered Twitter of Time, first of all, there's a whole community of different characters from the books on there that are playing the characters as if on Twitter. And really, the best ones are almost all the obscure characters.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, not like, the Rands and the Perrins and the Mats of the world, as much as like one of them is it Marion Alvear?
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it. Anyway, she's another one that's kind of funny. That's just like, hey, take it a fairly small character and just, make a whole thing over it. Anyway.
Heck yeah. I haven't checked that out myself. I should do so on a free afternoon. Seems fun.
You spend your time how you choose to, and I will waste my time how I choose to.
I waste plenty of time. Don't worry about that. I can't imagine that any of the other Tyrants or Carrienan would be much more qualified than Wyramon. I mean, the guy is, you got to give him points for chutzpah at least. He's willing to charge in and just kind of try to take over, do everything himself, even if he shouldn't.
I mean, but that's like so many. It's, you have either, the really great guys, really, great captains or whatever, or people that are way overconfident.
Yes. Yeah. And Wyramon is absolutely the latter. Yeah. I was going to say that none of the Tyrants or the Carrienan are 5-star general great captains. These are not our pros here. But Rand doesn't need that need them to do that. He has Matt for that, and Bashir, to be fair. But he just needs these folks to stay put until Matt shows up with the band. That's what he kind of the point he's driving home to them. And Wiremon does not like to hear it. None of them like to hear it. They want to go take on Ilian because Ilian and Tyr are lifelong enemies, and he's ready to do it. He wants to do it. He wants to go take them on. So Wiremon tells Rand that several of the Tai'Shar nobles have fled to Hadan-Merk to oppose his reign. They wrote a letter saying Rand is a false dragon. Oh, they wrote a letter.
What shall I do? They wrote a letter?
So Rand says that any of them who give up and surrender can live, but all of them are to be stripped of their titles and land. But if anyone kills them, they won't be charged with murder. And if they do help them, they'll be charged with treason. And really, the part that bothers everybody is the stripping of land and titles. That, like, the idea that they would be peasants or die as peasants. Dude, I mean, you can't take it with you, guys. Like,
right. We'll take your title and kill you. Wait, right. You're going to take our title?
Take my title? I will die a peasant. You're going to die either way, but a peasant? Yeah, that does seem strange. So Samael's armies are camped in the Doirlan Hills on the other side of the plains of Merido. And Wiremon says, we can go smash Ilian without the help of any stinking Aiel. But Rand says, no. We're going to wait. You're going to wait for Matt, and you sit here and hold tight. So they're not happy to hear this, but he says, all right, I'm going to leave, goes to meet with the Aiel chiefs, who also ask to go do something. They're just kind of tired of sitting, I think. But they want to go crush the Tyrant Rebellion. They're like, just send one clan. We'll take it out. We'll take care of it. Or Ilian, whatever. And Rand also tells them, nope, you're staying here too. Wait for Matt and the band. And so, of course, the idea here is that this message is going to kind of get out that we're not doing anything until Matt and the band gets here. That's the message. So after he leaves, Samara and Nyla bring him mutton stew and mint tea. Mint tea. Cool mint tea. That sounds great. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. It sounds great.
I might need to go brew some right now.
I know, right? It just made me wonder how often Jordan was like writing hungry when he wrote details that. It just so I used to read a lot of like trashy comic book novels as a kid. Like, so there was like X-Men, Spider-Man, Avengers, like Superman, all the comic books that were also novels. And there may still be, but there were definitely when I was a kid. I don't remember anything about any of them except for there was a Spider-Man novel in which the author filled he filled like 2 pages talking about a cheeseburger and fries. And I gotta hand it to the guy. I wanted a cheeseburger after reading. He was talking about how salty the fries were and greasy and juicy the cheeseburger was, and just like literally 2 pages. Like, buddy, you need to go eat your lunch because this does not have anything to do with Spider-Man. But it was kind of well written anyway. I don't know. Yeah, it was like he copied and pasted a college essay on writing about a cheeseburger and fries. But anyway, I think that Jordan probably was doing that a time or two here. The maidens explain to Rand while he's eating what he should be doing to attract Avienda's attention. They say, when you undress for bread, let yourself dance as if life pleases you, then apologize when you suddenly realize she is there and put yourself straight into your blankets. Just like, what? Like, I'm with Rand on this one. Like, dude, what on earth?
So as a guy with 3 older sisters, I actually totally get a kick out of this because I have gotten a lot of unsolicited advice on attracting the fairer sex, which, to be fair, it would appear that I need help in that department. But this moment is very real. This whole here's what you got to do.
Oh, fair. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the Aiel kind of weirdness aside, just that kind of like, here's what you should be doing if you want to make headway. Sure, fair enough. I get that. So they travel back to Camelin, and Rand sneaks into the room. Of course, Avienda is staying there. He's like, really doesn't want to wake her up, but of course she's awake, and but all she says is sleep well and wake. So he's like, I didn't have to sneak in, could have come in without sneaking. So, chapter 5, a different dance. We switch over to Matt and the band of the Red Hand. So they're in a bar, in a tavern, of course, as you do. Talmanis, Dyred, and Elysian they're debating ways to win back what Matt has won from them in gambling, which I'm sure is quite a lot. I would imagine. They're like, okay, anything involving chance is out. So maybe horses. Matt's okay with it because he's learned plenty about horses from his dad. Right. He doesn't need luck. I could still do that. That's fine.
Yeah, he's got like genuine skill in that area.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Matt is distracted from the conversation by the barmaid, Betsy Sylvan. So she's just talking his ear off, just like. And I'm just thinking of New Jersey again. Anyway. I don't know why, but I definitely was thinking of New Jersey when I was reading this. But so he's just like, all right, shut up, let's dance. But he teaches her a dance from the memories that the foxes gave him. And Jordan goes into a lot of detail here about this dance.
Right.
It sounds like kind of like square dancing, swing dancing, or maybe something from the Ages. I don't know.
Let's not forget that Jordan had another pseudonym in which he was a dance critic. That he wrote dance critiques, and so
no wonder we get some complex choreography here. He had to scratch that itch a little bit. Yeah, fair enough. I wonder if he stood up from his keyboard and kind of acted them out as he was before typing.
Yeah, he may have been like, Harriet, come in here. Let's figure this out.
Right, let's choreograph this ancient pre-Trolloc Wars dance. So as he dances, Matt remembers dancing with the wave mistress of the sea folk beneath a crystal dome at the court of Shemel in Coromanda. And this was just before the beginning of the Trolloc Wars, which lasted 300 years and would bring the downfall of this nation and the rest of the 10 nations. Capital T, capital N. And so it's kind of fun. Like, I love the little details that we get like that. At the end of the dance, Matt asks Betsy if Daughter of the Nine Moons means anything to her. And she has a pretty good guess. She's like, is it an inn across the river? Not a bad guess, but wrong, but decent. So later, Adorian tells Matt there's a rumor that the Dragon Reborn was in town, which is, of course, true. Rand had traveled into Matt's room in the middle of the night to tell him to make haste slowly so that Samael sees him coming. Mm-hmm. So then he asks Matt, then he just sort of pivots and asks Matt how he knows if he's in love with a woman. And Matt's like, how would I know? I don't know that. Then we meet Oliver. Shows up. So
Oliver, yes, a fairly important character
for sure. Yeah,
that we get a lot of throughout the rest of the series, and really not just he does actually have an effect on the plot once in a while, but he is a device for Matt to start to show responsibility and start to. I think I like the character of Oliver, not as much for him by himself, but the effect he starts to have on Matt.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That makes sense. That's kind of what I was thinking as well. So some hunters of the Horn are threatening to wring his neck for touching their horse. Matt, of course, whips up on him and tells Harnan to run them out of town. And Oliver says he's an orphan. So Matt says, all right, tells Adorian, get him a bath and a meal, and Estion. So then Estion runs up and tells Matt there's a seafolk ship in port. But they leave before Matt can get a boat to go out and meet him, which is like, okay, well, why did we even have that scene? That was kind of pointless. Anyway,
yeah.
So Matt dances nearly the whole night that night with Betsy, and at the end of the night gives her an Andorran gold crown to buy herself something nice. It just kind of shows he's just not really a bad dude. He knows he's leaving. He's just here's some money. You buy yourself something pretty, until she kind of takes that well. So he tells the lads that the band marches at first light in 2 hours, and he's like, I'm gonna go get some shut-eye, but you guys go get everybody ready to go.
And that's leadership, ladies and gentlemen.
Delegation, for sure.
Exactly.
So their motto is Dova Sendya Tavoya Sagan, whatever. It's time to toss the dice. And the soldiers are quite fond of singing Dance with Jack of the Shadows as they march. So Matt tells them he wants to make 35 miles a day, which is a lot of miles to march. Samael would see him coming, and the word Rand put out in Tyr would make it clear that the attack would begin as soon as Matt arrived. The idea is to freak him out, and then and then do something completely different. What is not clear at this point. Only Rand, Matt, and Bashir know, and we do not.
You saying the toss the time to toss the dice just reminds me of the whole bit where Rafe was saying how awesome the cast is apparently at speaking in the old tongue.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking forward to that first moment where we get to hear Barney shout that.
I'm all about it, for sure. It'd be good. So chapter 6, Threads Woven in Shadow, a Samael perspective. And we are just positively lousy with Forsaken perspectives in this book. It's excellent. I'm really
we are just so
it.
fortunate. Yeah. We really get to know these guys a little bit.
For sure. So he is going to meet with Grendel in Eridomen. So she has a bunch of compulsion zombies, as you do. They're juggling, playing music, doing acrobatics, and wading pools. And so we learn that Grendel was a dedicated ascetic before she became a Forsaken, chosen, who treated those with disturbed minds that healing couldn't help. And she was the one who accepted Samael's pledge to the Dark One. It's like she worked for Amway and was like, hey, I got the demonic Amway. So she tells him that 4 of the dancers are demonic royalty, though not the king himself, because he isn't up to her standards. She also has 2 from beyond the Aiel Waste. And here we get more details than we have ever before about Shara. Of course, the name isn't explicitly mentioned, but that is indeed what they are talking about. The 2 are Shaboan and Shabote, who, you get some details about. They rule as absolute monarchs for 7 years at a time. One dies, the other marries, becomes absolute monarchs, etc. How they've done this for 3,000 years. So Grendel mentions Lews Therin, and Samael gets real defensive. He says, Lews Therin is long dead. Rand al'Thor is a jumped-up farm boy, a choss hauler who has been lucky. I would love to know what choss haulers, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's some real dirty language there.
Bantha, Pudu, etc. Yeah.
Right.
Plenty of that from these guys, from Birgitta, anyway, yeah. So Grendel says she thinks that Rand killed Osmodi and Lanfear and Moghedien, so he must be doing something right. This is like she picked the wrong ones of the ones he's actually killed. And Samael responds, Tzazog. Responds with Tzazog, which apparently is a very nasty curse, because it makes Grendel blink. Doesn't sound so bad. They're both worried that Rand will become Nameless, which is really a heck of a leap since he's a Dragon Reborn and not a Dark Friend in any way. But it just goes to show how much they trust the Dark One and believe he's going to win. And, we've heard that they sort of mention that at least Ishmael has claimed that in past turnings of the wheel, the Dragon Reborn has been turned to the shadow. And this is something that's happened before. It could happen again. So they really believe it's possible, so to speak, that he is a real competitor to them to be Nameless, even though he's also trying to kill the Dark One and them. Which is how different is that from them trying to kill each other? Like they're always thinking about it,
Right. It's not the most healthy work environment.
No, not so much.
being a chosen, it seems like that there's some real toxicity there that they should probably go to a conference about it or something. Have like a consultant come in and kind of examine their organizational health.
Even a social would be,
Yeah.
Have that guy arrange another Dark Friend social. So Samael tells Grendel he tells Grendel to tell Demandred that I know, this is 8th grade. But anyway, he knows what Demandred is up to. He won't tell him himself. He opens a gateway back to Ilion and accidentally, or probably not accidentally, slices a male servant in half. Because as we've seen, the gateways are razor sharp. They're just slicing atoms in half. So then we switch to Grendel after Samael leaves, who is convinced she's the one who manipulated him and not vice versa. Then on to Cimarog, who is torturing an Aes Sedai lady and her warder for Shadar Haran. In just continuing our tour of Forsaken perspectives here, we've learned that Cimarog is most definitely a sadist, like a textbook sadist. Like she's literally a sadist.
Absolutely.
Taking great pleasure in inflicting pain by literally stimulating the pain and pleasure centers of the brain, which is, just pretty disturbing image.
Right.
But we do learn here that the one nugget we learn is that the Forsaken in the Age of Legends did not know how to bond warders. Or no Aes Sedai knew how to bond warders in the Age of Legends. It's something that Aes Sedai have learned to do at some point in this age, essentially, which is
yeah, it's kind of an odd thing because this seems like this would be fairly basic, but
right.
it does give a little bit of maybe the impression that the Age of Legends folks, they didn't know everything.
Right. Yeah, they were really advanced in certain ways. I mean, because they had a whole age where there was, essentially no conflict and no Dark One to sort of develop their their control over the one power. But I mean, you could see how throughout that time they wouldn't have needed warders. Really, they didn't need protection because there was nothing to fight, and so probably a lot of the things they developed were not for combat until the Boar in the Dark One's prison and
right,
all that jazz. So
yeah.
So chapter 7, A Matter of Thought. We switch to Elaine. She and Nynaeve are accompanying the Saladar sitters in Tel'aran'rhiod to the White Tower. So they're just kind of like going to the White Tower to see what they can learn, essentially, about what Elaida is doing. Swan and Lyanna are with them as well. They all, of course, have Dream, Tyr, and Grial, some of which Elaine has made, I believe. So it's clear that the sitters, Shiriam and the gang, all of them, have no idea what they're talking about or what they're doing, Tel'aran'rhiod, but they're just too proud to ask any questions. So they've also taken over the meetings with the wise ones in the world of dreams, and that's going about like we'd expect, from these, nose in the air Aes Sedai and the wise ones being the wise ones that they are. So Nynaeve is blunt and rude, of course, and nearly gets her and Elaine in trouble a whole lot every time she opens her mouth, basically, about like, you don't know what you're doing, you need to listen to us. And every time Elaine's like, no, it's okay, we're sorry, we're here to help, So that whole dynamic continues. So they teleport to, or travel, whatever you want to call it, in Tel'aran'rhiod to Elaida's study and kind of begin to go through her papers in her little desk box, which change constantly even as they are being read. And then Elaida suddenly appears and says, as I have foretold, the White Tower will be reunited under me. She points harshly at the floor, kneel and ask forgiveness of your sins, and then disappears. So, naturally everybody's like, well, that was unexpected. But, Elaida just dreamed herself into Tel'aran'rhiod, and that's what happened. And
it happens.
It does, of course. So one thing they learn is that Elaida has demoted an Aes Sedai to accepted, and she's run away, basically. So Elaine, that's something that Elaine and Nynaeve had told them, and they just didn't believe them. They also,
it's never happened.
They also learned that Elaida has sent emissaries to escort Rand to the tower. And Elaine, upon hearing this, Elaine exclaims, they have to warn him. And she's about to get in trouble for this until a nightmare sucks a bunch of Aes Sedai into it in Tel'aran'rhiod. So she doesn't have to worry about scrubbing pots because people are getting tortured. I guess this is sort of Jordan's attempt to drive home the point that Tel'aran'rhiod is a very dangerous place. Because up to this point, okay, we've had Moghedien attacking Birgitta and Nynaeve, but there haven't been a lot of times where a nightmare itself has really hurt somebody. It's always mentioned, but this time it really does. They run out in the hallway and suddenly there's a bunch of Trollocs there and they have cooked pots and they've torture devices and they're like, this one chick is getting pulled in two directions and are getting her joint popped out and somebody else is getting whipped. And so Elaine runs out there with Swan and so Shiriam and whoever the heck else, I don't remember. It's like, we have to link to fight these Trollocs. And then, of course, they're sucked into the nightmare because they believe it. Sort of ignoring Elaine. And so Elaine and Swan are the only two that are outside. And now that the others are inside the nightmare, they can't hear anything Elaine says. So Elaine says, all right, we're going to have to go into the nightmare ourselves. And Swan kind of looks at her in shock, like, you're right, but dang, I'm surprised you're suggesting it. So kind of grudging respect, I guess, sort of thing. So they go in and they start getting tortured, but And like the Trollocs are like larger than life, even more bestial and bigger and broader because they're nightmares. And so they tell all the Aes Sedai, picture the hallway as it was before there was this nightmare. And so once they do, the Trollocs disappear. But it's like right before that, Elaine was about to get her throat cut. So she's got like a little nick on her throat. Morvrin, I think, is the one that was getting her like joints popped out of their sockets, so she's like, you know, all kind of weird and like not doing good. Yeah. And then so some of them have Anaya has been flogged with metal tipped whips. Like they're not doing good here. So they're like, we're gonna go home now and deal with that. Because of course, anything that happens to Teleron Riyadh happens in the real world. So this is all torture that's happened to their physical bodies. Can be healed, but not something you want to have happen in your sleep. So before returning to her body, though, Elaine goes to the throne room in Camelin to see her throne, or to see the throne that she is to claim. But there's a giant kind of gaudy chair with dragons on it. And so she's like, looks at that and is like, what is Rand doing? But she's more just kind of worried about him than anything else. So she sees all that and just kind of is ruminating on it, and then and then goes back home. Then we switch over to Demandred, who has been spying on her, but he's kind of misread the situation, seeing the determined expression on her face and just assuming that she's going to try to stop Rand. So I figure that's the reason why he didn't, like, I don't know, kidnap her or something.
Right.
But then he says, let the Lord of Chaos rule, I guess. Basically. And then opens a gateway to leave the world of dreams, which means he was probably there in the flesh. And why he was there in the first place, I don't know.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of chapter 7. Indeed, so let's pause there.
All right.
And just remind you that we always love hearing from you. Visit our website, tsmpodcast.com. Check us out on our socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at podcasttsm. We love hearing from you, so don't be shy. Come and say hey. And until next time, Tai'Shar Manetheren.